Okay, here we go. What's up, and welcome back to a special edition of Propels Talk, presented to you by Boot Crew Media and Company Burger, located at 4600 Ferret Street. We are joined today by some of the greatest guys, well, in my opinion, that cover the New Orleans Pelicans. First off, from Bourbon Street Shots, Shamit Dua, followed by Jake Madison of Locked On Pels. And of course, we got the GOAT of Spaces, Chris Connor, and then the Rattler brothers, Garrick and Raph of Pels Pod, part of the New Orleans Football Network. First off, guys, thank y'all so much for joining, and let's get right into it. We'll go first with Shamit, then Jake. Shamit, real quick, give me your thoughts on CJ and the fit that's going to happen here in New Orleans and what they gave up. Did you think that they gave up too much to go get CJ McCollum?
I think CJ McCollum is an A+ fit. I've been calling for this dude for months, and I'm very excited that they finally have a guard of his caliber on the team, someone who can create off the dribble, can create for others, and just take attention away from guys like Brandon Ingram and Jonas Valanciunas, and hopefully Zion Williamson soon come, right? As far as what they gave up to get CJ, I think it was a very appropriate deal. All of this kind of chatter in the national airwaves about the Pelicans giving up too much in draft compensation, I think is hilarious, honestly, because the picks are protected really cleverly, and the Pelicans still have a chance to retain any top 4 pick that they jump into, and if it conveys to Charlotte, if they make the playoffs, which is a good thing, making the playoffs is a great thing, the Blazers will get a Bucks pick, which is also protected. So as far as the players that were given up in the trade, I mean, I can't speak for everyone here in the committee, but I'm probably, I would say, the lowest on Josh Hart, at least in like maybe the Pelicans media sphere. I've never been quite so high on him. I thought this was the exact right moment to capitalize on his improved play and his team-friendly contract. And then it sure seems like Nickeil didn't have that much league-wide value either if he was flipped to Utah for basically a second-round pick. So I thought the Pelicans did great there.
Yeah, Jake, so Shamit had asked, talk about the national media. I think Bill Simmons had a tweet, I think it was either yesterday or 2 days ago, whatever it may be, saying that this was a bad deal for the Pelicans. What are your thoughts? I know you have some strong thoughts on that. Interested to hear on your thoughts on that.
I mean, look, if I actually cared what Bill Simmons said, that would matter to me, but I don't. So it's really just kind of like as simple as that. This is just a general piece of advice. What I always say, find the people you like and trust in media and go listen to them, and don't listen to the ones you don't. And I don't need to listen to Ben Simmons, who clearly doesn't watch this team. And I wonder how much of the NBA he actually watches in the first place, because, even putting the fact that we're fans of the team and there's some homerism to it, I think this is a good deal for New Orleans. I had spoken to our Blazers host for Locked On, and we kind of came to the agreement that it might take 2 first-round picks from New Orleans to get a guy like CJ McCollum. So to only give up one, and one that's protected in like a myriad of ways, I think is a really good return. And he fits like the need. There's a reason this sort of deal came together, and everyone had been saying this, right? It was a player that was available, and he fits what the New Orleans Pelicans needed. They're one of the worst offenses in the league right now. They're 24th. They're one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the league, 37th in 3-point percentage. CJ McCollum fixes a lot of that. It's one of a few guys over the past 7 years it's averaged over 20 points per game, right? He can be a spot-up shooter, but more importantly, he can shoot off of the dribble. They don't really have anyone else like that. That adds a different element of spacing than just popping someone in the corner and hoping they make shots. So he really adds a lot of what this team needed. And look, they swung and missed on their flexibility this past offseason. I think David Griffin maybe didn't have the best sense of self, right, of where this team kind of stood in the NBA, clearing all of that cap space, not getting anyone. So fill it with a trade and CJ McCollum, who's a productive player. And I think that's the most important thing. And I think they've added all of that to it. And he's, whenever Zion is going to be back, is a complementary piece to that too. So it's a move that helped them this season and next season as well.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I'm going to get to Chris, Garrick, and Raph here real quick, starting with you, Chris. Culture is a big thing down here in New Orleans, right? And I feel like CJ has said some really good things so far earlier today, saying that he wanted to be here. What does that mean, I guess, to you, to see an all-star caliber player, right? And we take a lot of heat as being Pelican fans that no one wants to be here, saying that he kind of steered his way here. He approved of being in New Orleans.
it feels good, man, because it, like it 2000, what was it, 19, when this whole new regime started, it feels like so long ago, like whether it's due to the pandemic or just the different things that have happened with the team. It feels so long to where you were in a situation to even, like, we thought having JJ Redick wanted to come here, and Derek Favors was like that was a big thing for us at the time. But to have someone of CJ's caliber want to be here and then vocalize it, day one. Man, I mean, it's huge, especially when you look at all the different things from the offseason in the past where, you hear, rumblings about, maybe why a guy like Kyle Lowry didn't come to New Orleans, or, why the Pelicans couldn't get a Tim Hardaway Jr. and some of the other people that, they went after, that they tried to overpay. The rumors about any type of mistrust within the front office and all the different bastions that the franchise takes repeatedly, whether it's deserved or not, to have that come full circle, with someone who is as just not just open, not the personality, him being in the Players Association. I mean, CJ has a lot of he's a lot of pool, he's a lot of connections. He talks and is dealing with with a lot of players. It's not just a regular guy saying, I want to be a part of the situation. And this is a situation that's not even full yet, right? Like, it's not even the biggest piece, right, of it, or that we're most excited about. We were most excited about the piece in which this thing was all built around isn't even here, and he's speaking about wanting to play with the guys that are here, the young talent, Brandon Ingram. So, I mean, it's great to me. I just hope you continue to build off it, and it just adds to a wonderful day. And that's why I am drinking at 2:20. By the time this game starts,
attaboy,
I don't know where I'm gonna be at. If I'm gonna be in front of a TV drunk or not.
What are you drinking though? Is the real question.
None of your goddamn business, Justin.
What's in my cup is in my cup. I see you, Chris.
Garrick, go ahead, brother.
Me?
Hey, man, listen. First of all, thank y'all for having us on, man. This is nice. I love seeing all of these faces, all of these guys that I so much respect. Man, CJ is a home run. He's a home run. First of all, you talk about a guy who fits an exact need for what we need at this point in time. Our guard play has been up and down, all throughout the season between the guys who have been here and the guys who still remain here. So inserting a guy who's a 20-point per game scorer, fringe all-star, just to kind of plug into that section right there, it's just, phenomenal work. But the thing about CJ is that, and Chris kind of alluded to it, is the respect that he has, right? The respect that he has off the court among his peers, but the respect that he's gonna have on the court as far as X's and Y's go. And so, it's one thing to be really good at what you do. It's another thing to strike fear in the heart of people. And so, CJ is one of those guys that you have to, game plan for. And we already have 3 of those guys already on the roster between JV Zion and Brandon Ingram that you have to design some form of game plan for. And now you just drop CJ in there, and that's just an extra headache that you have to deal with when you're planning defensively. And then just the fact of him speaking about, you think about all of the things that we've been through in this city and with this team, and the amount of shots that have been thrown our way and things like that. And I have CJ, a guy who is, so well respected and so loved around his peers. You saw the video that Portland put out. He's heavy in the community and things like that. Just to have that kind of guy come in and speak so well about the organization. He mentioned Trajan. He mentioned David Griffin. He mentioned Brandon Ingram and his play in his presser early today. He mentioned these guys specifically by name. So this is things that he's done. He's done his homework. He's a smart guy. So for him to speak about the way that he does, it rings bells not only through this community, but throughout the NBA as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's well said. Raph, what are your thoughts, I guess, to see Brandon and CJ play tonight? What are you excited to see with those two on the same court?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited about. Obviously, BI can't be quadruple teamed on every possession. You got to respect CJ's ability to score, right? But on top of that, he kind of alluded to it today in his practice presser. CJ's known how to play different roles, right? He's been the primary scorer where Dame is out. He's been a follower to some degree while Dame is in. And so what I'm looking at in terms of this acquisition is, now when somebody asked us earlier today, like, is this something that helps the team push toward the playoffs this year? Or is this something more long-term? And I'm like, why not both, right? This is something that you bring in a veteran presence who's able to obviously fill a big hole on this court and on this team where you're lacking a lot of shot creation to other people's point thus far, but also it helps grow the young players on this team. There's so many guys on this team that, all respect to Garrett Temple and things like that. You're not gaining in your talent of knowledge when you're playing with a guy like that. But when you play with a guy next to CJ, who you can learn from, you can learn how is he able to get to certain spots? How is he able to find things that fit his skill set well? That goes a long way for Trey. That goes a long way for Najee. That goes a long way for Jackson, who's able to feed off the type of space that he creates. So many guys on this team grow from a guy like that. And I think that the transition period will be one that's kind of smooth, right? He's a guy who knows how to play in different roles. And I think that that's going to go a long way for this team.
Yeah. So now this is actually an interesting question here from Reggie. I'll let Jake answer first, then go to Shamit. With CJ in the lineup tonight, what is your expectation for production wise for a guy like Devontae Graham? So Jake, go ahead, and then Shamit.
I think this is going to be really interesting, right? Because it feels like he should be probably on the bench, but they're also going to probably start him. And I think you're really going to get an idea early on. Do they view CJ McCollum as a guy that can really handle the ball? I think, he hasn't done that primarily through his career, but I think he's definitely got a tight enough handle to maybe try and initiate the offense more. So I'm going to be very curious. I mean, in terms of like actual production, I'm not sure, but you're certainly going to see a bit of a shifting role for Devontae Graham with maybe designs on having him come off of the bench, eventually when everyone's healthy and back, whenever that might be. And I think that could be the ultimate goal here. I think they should probably start to at least integrate some of that now versus later, but I don't think you're going to see a ton of that necessarily in game one. So I think this could be a bit of a slower introduction of CJ McCollum to the lineup, but also it wouldn't shock me if they just kind of rip the Band-Aid off and go with it too.
Yeah. Shamit, before, I'll let you answer. We had a discussion about the starting five. Do you think, first off, what isn't starting? Will that really matter to you? I guess, because Jackson's so good at the four, right, of starting and his energy level and things like that. He's been really productive. Is that going to kind of take a hit to his, just say confidence or not? Or do you think it really matters?
To answer the Jackson question first, I don't think it'll take a hit to his confidence if he's being displaced in the starting lineup by CJ McCollum. Of all players, I think he recognizes how good of a player CJ is and understands that, CJ's coming in and Josh was a starter for a long time. And, Jackson was doing what he could to make the most of his current opportunity. What I'm super curious about is how they end up staggering the minutes just for the guards. Devontae and CJ is already a pretty small backcourt. Are they also going to do a Jose and CJ backcourt, which is also pretty small again? I think you're going to see more minutes in the smaller direction to start CJ's tenure, especially as Larry Nance is getting healthy, especially as Zion is not on the roster. But I agree with Jake that they're probably going to trend away from it as they sort of progress. And I'm definitely of the camp where they should rip the Band-Aid off and kind of get things going. But with regards to Jackson, I think as long as they're able to find consistent minutes for him, and I think them not making any last-minute deadline deals and then Nance still being out 6 weeks still gives Jackson an opportunity to find minutes at that 4 spot, probably as like one of the first people off the bench, maybe second person off the bench, and get some minutes in there with Jonas, and then get some minutes in with Billy if Billy's playing. And then honestly, if you kind of look at Jackson's last couple games, he's done a lot of damage at the 5 as well. I think he's just had confidence of playing with good players, and I think that's kind of been the problem with Jackson. At least one of the things I've been trying to emphasize, that he hasn't had good guards to play with, good players to set him up, and he's been put in bench units that really lack creation, and sort of Jose stepping up and running the offense has opened up things for him. I think the team is doing a better job finding him, and then obviously just that confidence of playing well. So I anticipate him to maintain his production now that I think the team kind of recognizes, hey, he's a really tall guy. We can get him the ball, and he's gonna 9 out of 10 times he's gonna do something at the rim that's really good.
Yeah, Chris, we're talking about starting lineups, so I'm interested to hear your thoughts on what the closing lineups mean. To me, starting lineups don't really mean much as long as the guys are getting minutes. Chris, what do you think? Tonight, especially, 5 minutes of a 2-point, 3-point game. Who would you like to see closing out?
I mean, the lineup that most of us want to start the game. CJ, of course, at the 1, BI as your the 2. I mean, who's playing multiple roles, positions. Herb at the 3, Jax, and then Jonas. I think that it could depend on how. Now, I'm really interested in how they defend Miami. That might play a role in what you end up seeing. I mean, I would, ideally, I would love a situation where maybe if you want more, the basketball mind in me at some point with this team would want to see Trey in there and maybe Jackson at the 5, but I'm not there yet for multiple reasons, and I do think you need JB out there. But yeah, I mean, that's the lineup I would assume that they're gonna close with, and it makes the most sense. Yeah, I mean, I don't I think the size, the amount of options, the dribble handoff that you can run with Jonas and CJ, because, and I forgot who ended up mentioning it, like I think it was Rat, like CJ has been in so many different roles. It's not going to be difficult for him to, like, at least from my perspective, for them to find ways to get him involved. And you look at the things that he said throughout the year when he was coming back from I forget what happened. Was it a collapsed lung? It was something that ended up happening.
It was a collapsed lung. Yeah.
Yeah. So he comes back and he's like, he's being asked about how is he going to fit in with with Simons going off and some of the other players at Portland that have been playing well, in his absence. He's like, I'm gonna get in where I fit in, man. It's not gonna be difficult for me. Like, I know, where, I'm going to be able to fit throughout the offense, but I'm not going to get in anybody's way. I don't think that you're looking at a real transition, from what he mentioned there to, to this team. I mean, CJ has so many different ways he can impact the game, whether that's spotting up, whether that is with the ball in his hands, whether that's staggering the lineup when Brandon is out, or whether he's, taking, he's being a decoy of sorts. So yeah, I mean, that's the lineup that I would ultimately run, Jackson, JV there, and having CJ at the 1. And I hope ultimately that's the lineup that they really end up starting with, because it gives you so many different options, and it's going to open up so much for. Number one, it's going to make life easier for your for your star players, the guys that have been doing a lot of the heavy lifting throughout the year. I mean, I'm just really excited to see how teams attempt to guard that lineup right now. Yeah. And that's before we even talking Zion. I mean, I think it's more difficult than people realize.
Yeah, Shamit, I mean, I saw in the private chat, I'm going to get to you in a second, Garrick and Raph, but you said you liked the idea of Trey closing out. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, just sort of this player who is really big in terms of his size on the wing and can hit open threes. So it can defend multiple positions, can get on the glass and hit open threes. That type of player is a player that every single NBA team looks to have in their closing lineups, pays a lot of money to have in their closing lineups. And so if they can continue to develop him, he's that exact player that you want to slot in some of these closing configurations, whether or not Zion is healthy. And he also, in my opinion, in the future will allow you to play big or small, or like a super big version of small ball. And so I'm kind of glad, while, like I was tweeting about maybe they should look into KCP, maybe they should look into some of these wing size players that can guard the perimeter. A part of me is relieved that they didn't bring in one of those guys, because it does give someone like Trey the opportunity to take those minutes and see what they can make out of them. And, if Trey does it, awesome. If Najee does it and proves that he can get back in the rotation, great. Those are the exact kind of guys you want to be able to throw at opposing perimeter players. you'll go guard them, and then they're not negatives on offense. They can play within their role.
Yeah, and I'll start with Raph and go to Garrick. Raph, I'm glad you brought up Najee because he had a great night the other night. But the emergence of Trey Murphy and Jose Alvarado and Jackson Hayes, Raph, it's not like an easy decision on who the closing group is, right? So, do you think Willie stays with the hot hand and goes game by game, or do you think there'll be kind of like, I'll give this closing group 3 or 4 games and then go from there?
I mean, if we've seen anything this season, it's Willie Green's ability to be adverse and actually respond to what's happening in the game, something that we didn't necessarily have last year. So Trey went from not playing for weeks and going down to the G League and going in a protocol to closing the game, right? And so I think that Willie Green would be the type of coach that would look and say, what is the game giving me? Like, what am I seeing? Who's having the hot hand, to your point? And that's what we're going to close up the line on. So to your point, it's like, hey, what's the starting lineup? What's the closing lineup? I think that might differ on a night-to-night basis. That's what it's so exciting about this team. Even without Zion, it's a good team and it's a versatile team. Not to mention, Tony Snell is also a good shooter, right? He's a player that might be able to be thrown in the mix at some point. I'm not saying he's getting big minutes or anything like that, but now you've got a slew of options off the bench. With a couple months ago, we were like, where are we getting contributions from? Because there's not a lot of people who can score, right? And so I think that in a situation like this, I think Willie Green will look and see. To Chris's point, last time I was on this with you, I talked about Jackson. I would love to see Jackson continue to grow, but I think it depends on a night-by-night basis, and you ride whoever is shooting you to a victory.
Garrick, go ahead.
Yeah, man. We've gotten to a point where we are in a situation where we have too many players to play, and we're in a situation where we have a wealth of options and we don't really know what to do with it. So at this point, again, I'm with everybody about Trey. Trey is that guy that you would love to slide in, but I think the most important thing here is that the innovation and the dynamic, the ability and the willingness to be dynamic by Willie Green is what's going to make this team special. Is because you have so many switchable bodies, you have so many things that can go, so many pieces that can be plugged into so many different ways that Willie Green won't have to commit to one way, to playing one way. Like Shamit was talking about the supersize, small ball. Like that's a situation where if Zion is the biggest player on the floor, like what does that do for pick and rolls? What does that do for dribble handoffs? What does that do? How does that affect the game for the defensive end? And I think that the Pelicans now have a bunch of players in a situation where they have rosters where they can bend the defense and make them kind of react to what they do. And so I'm CJ coming in and the amount of ball handling and scoring, that he's going to bring in. I would love that. You have to have him on the floor to close out games. You obviously have to have your closer and Brandon Ingram to close out games. And I think after that, I think it's really so much of who is going to be where as far as, with Zion be out. I think, some days her might be in just because you might need a stop, or something like that. But you also might have Trey in the game. You might have Devontae Graham finishing because he's riding, he's hot and he's hitting the shot. So I think, the ability to have all of these players kind of plug in and do what works for them. We saw Willie Green go to Jared Harper for a half in a game, and then he never played in a game again. So we see, that he's able to kind of do and pull from whatever is on his roster at that point in time, whatever he needs at that point in time, and roll with it. And that's one of the things that I love about Willie Green. We saw so many times last season with the previous regime where it didn't matter what was going on, 4 quarters, 6 minutes to go, 5 minutes to go, 4 minutes. You knew who was coming in, regardless of who was playing, whether it was Najee going off, whether it was whoever was going off. You knew that those guys were coming in at a certain time. But Willie Green has shown an ability not to do that. And the players have bought into that system without arguing, without complaining, without pouting anything. So I'm very excited to see what Willie does with all these toys in his toolbox.
Yeah, and basically just to gather all y'all's comments, it's nice to have options, right? And it's not just, as you said, just 5 guys. There's options now, which is nice. But Jake and Shamit, I know we got like 5 or 7 more minutes left. I want to get your thoughts. We'll go Jake first, then Shamit. Jake, does this move save David Griffin's job? Whether or not they make the playoffs or not, does this move yesterday save David Griffin's job?
I mean, yeah, I don't know if to the degree that he would have been in danger this offseason anyway, necessarily, but certainly this buys you time, right? This again is about this year. They're already on a 4-game winning streak right now. They're surging a little bit. They look to you feel good about their chances at least getting the 10th spot over a team like the Sacramento Kings, and then who knows what the Lakers, who didn't get a deal done and who are an absolute dumpster fire right now, are going to look at it like that period in time. So maybe you can catch lightning in a bottle at the right time with or without Zion and get into the playoffs. You lose in the first round, but that's a big win for the team and a step in the right direction. And you can easily sell this for next season as well. And when you kind of look at this move in the larger picture of this past off season, it starts to make it look a little bit better. So I think this certainly helps. And look, this was a good move. I think we all agree that this was a really good trade. So, there was maybe a little bit of desperation to it. The way I've kind of described it is like the Pelicans have been a poker player that's maybe losing some chips. You finally get a good enough hand, so you may as well go all in on it, even if maybe you could have made a better move later down the line. He did the right thing here, and I think it's going to be fine. I think that, the key for David Griffin is his relationship with Zion Williamson. But, while this move helps today, it's going to help next season too. This also hopefully sends a strong message to Zion that, hey, the team isn't actually as dysfunctional as maybe he once thought or media has made it out to be. So maybe, just maybe, this kind of sends a message to him. And if that's the case, then yeah, he'll be fine.
Shamit, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Zion being hurt saved David Griffin's job. And then, the combination of Willie Green and being successful with Herb Jones and just the moves in general this offseason kind of put the danger out of David Griffin's job, I would say. And I don't think this move in particular moves the needle in one way or another, because I still think that if Zion is super healthy, like he comes back in a couple weeks and puts up all NBA level numbers, and this summer he goes like, hey, I'll sign that deal if you send David Griffin away, I think they would do that, right? I just don't think that that's a situation that's going to happen. I don't think Zion's going to make that demand either, and I think this ownership group has shown that they're willing to be patient with their management, and they've certainly afforded the previous regime a lot of chances, and they've definitely been patient with David Griffin through the sort of turbulence that's been in the early portion of his tenure. And so I can't imagine them rushing to make any sort of moves, especially since they're still paying Stan Van Gundy, and I think they're still paying Alvin. I'm not entirely sure.
I think it just got done. Alvin got done.
Alvin just got done, right? I mean, there's a lot of sort of like that dead money, and they're also gearing up to be an expensive roster now that CJ's on the books, and you have Zion's extension coming up, potentially Jackson's extension coming up if he's going to be on the team past his rookie deal, and I think a general investment in the team. Though I think this luxury tax redistribution situation going on with the league and Golden State and the Clippers, who didn't really make any tax avoiding moves right now. I mean, there's still time at the end of the season for them to do that, but and I think the Lakers, there's a lot of teams that I think the distribution right now is like around 11 million. These teams going to get around 11 million. That's a nice check, right? That's a good check. So I think Griff's safe.
Good. Chris, Lakers don't make a move. Thoughts? I'm celebrating just solely off of that. I think it's fucking, excuse my language, I think it's hilarious in the first place. Let's go ahead.
Chris, I think that's something to drink to, bro. I think you might want to need to take a drink to the dumpster fire.
Oh, this is beautiful, man. They lost to Portland last night, man. They lost to Portland. Like, I mean, we saw Josh Hart's jersey and his new number. He wasn't in there. I mean, he didn't play. They lost to Anthony Simons and CJ Ellerby. I mean, what do you want me to say, man? I eat I drink Laker tears, man. Every morning. You asked me what I was drinking. That's exactly what's in here, man. Lakers, look. I mean, dog. Like I tweeted about it earlier, man. I was in because we now as a Pelicans community, we travel together to Lakers spaces after every loss.
Yes.
Okay. Every time the Lakers lose, a bunch of us, Garrick included, we travel to Lakers spaces to hear.
I am unapologetically petty. Unapologetically petty. I don't care. I'm unapologetically petty.
I mean, look, man, Taylor Horton Tucker, man, bless his heart, man, had 14 and 7, and it was fans saying that was a masterclass. I mean, look, like I'm in heaven, man. What the Pelicans are now 3 games back?
3 games. 3 games back. Yep.
I mean, there was some rumblings yesterday before the trade deadline that maybe the Lakers would be able to, to get off of Russ's deal and bring in something. It didn't happen. LeBron's talking about drinking wine and going home. He said he's tired. Like, Anthony Davis is getting destroyed by, yo, man. I mean, poor Giannis, man. Because look, right, like I was talking to Justin about this and a few other people. Like I remember a game in like 20 whatever year it was, 2013, 2014, where AD and Giannis played, and Giannis was super young, and the game was in Milwaukee. Tyreek Evans goes out, sprains his ankle. The Pelicans end up winning, but AD talking mad shit to Giannis. And now, man, every time they go against each other, Giannis just feels, he looks as if he feels disrespected that there was ever even like a comparison between the two. So no, but at the end of the day, man, I look at it like through everything that has happened, for this to be in this, for them to be in this situation and them not to find a way to improve, and then not looking like it's going to get better outside of maybe, firing Frank Vogel, whatever that does. From a roster perspective, they're pretty much stuck. And, that puts the Pelicans and teams below them in a much better situation in regards to catching up. That's funny. So, and I don't know how the situation gets better. I can't tell from any Laker fan or writer or blogger or, podcast host that I talk to that sees a route to get better. So, I mean, it just makes, like, the Pelicans have 3 games left or 3 games against the Lakers. I don't know, 3-2, one or the other, but the first one is at the end of the month. I mean, by that time, for all you know, I mean, that could be a game in which New Orleans has an opportunity to pass them up in the standings. It just feels good for so many different reasons, and that's outside of what could happen with that draft pick. That's outside of the future draft picks that that are up. That's outside the whole Anthony Davis situation. It just we were supposed to be the ones, the Pelicans were the team started off 1-12, 3-16. They were the franchise that was supposed to be laughed at. And now, like, you're right here. You're losing to Portland. You're losing to Portland without Dame Lillard, without CJ McCollum, without the people that you just traded for. Like, Nurkic had Anthony Davis looking completely normal.
Yeah.
And I take pride in that.
Yeah, it's perfect. And Garrick, before I get to you two, I don't know, Shamit or Jake, if y'all know anything of that Griffin's joining Willie Green in his presser at 5. Do y'all know anything about that? Or
yeah, it's going to be his media availability. Just, I think, talking about post deadline and the acquisition. So they've made that available to the media. I'm sure a bunch of us are going to be either there or on the Zoom trying to get questions in and hopefully get some nice word salads going on.
Yeah. And look, guys, I can't thank y'all enough. I'm gonna ask one more question. I'll let y'all go. I know y'all are crazy busy. We'll go with Jake, then I'll go Shamit, then Garrick, Raph, and we'll close it out with Chris. Jake, winner or lose? Give me your winner of the trade deadline and loser of the trade deadline.
Ooh, that's a good one. Look, the Pels are definitely in the winners. I also think the Indiana Pacers and what they did was really great. And honestly, probably the losers are both the Dallas Mavericks and the Washington Wizards with that Spencer Dinwiddie, Kristaps Porzingis, just horrible, like soul-crushingly bad for both teams trade that makes me sad to be a fan of either one of those franchises.
Yeah,
I didn't think it was bad for the Wizards. I thought Bertans is a terrible contract. I've never been high on Dinwiddie, and he's also a terrible contract. And so for them to sort of at least get a player who's been decently productive this year. I mean, Porzingis kind of stunk it up last year.
When healthy.
Yeah, but he's been okay. And like, what else are they got off of like 2 terrible deals with the guys just aren't good, period. And so, now they can kind of play around with if Beal sticks around, which I think they're going to give him all the money he wants. They can play around with that and some of these like versatile forwards they have with Deni Avdija and Rui and I guess KCP is going to be part of the core. I don't know what was going on over there. Oh, they have Kyle Kuzma too. I forgot about that guy. So I don't think they're necessarily done making moves, but I certainly, in terms of like losers, definitely the Lakers. I would say like some of the teams that didn't get moves done. Like I think like Houston's a pretty big loser. Just not being able to move off of Christian Wood or Eric Gordon. I think that Boston is a pretty big winner. Big fan of them acquiring Derek White, getting Daniel Tice. They, I think, have been on a pretty good run lately. After they started off a little bit shaky, they had a bunch of COVID stuff going on, and they've kind of excised some bad players in their rotation and turned them into good players. Players that fit what they're trying to do. So I think they're just going to be a good team. But man, I want to go back to that Lakers stuff just for a second, just to talk about the beauty of the pick that the Pelicans own. It is only top 10 protected and the Lakers are 12. That means if two teams pass them up, that pick is the Pelicans pick. I mean, look, the Pelicans are right there. The Kings are gotten better. Maybe the Kings can catch up to them. Maybe the Knicks go on a run. Maybe they get healthy. I don't know, man. Like, we should be rooting. Maybe Porzingis, like, single-handedly, like, wills Washington past the Lakers. And then, I don't know, all we need is, like, LeBron to go on another sabbatical, go down to Miami for a couple weeks, enjoy the sun, and get away from it all. We know what happens when AD's trying to be the lead man. Like let this all play out. We're really close, and it's not even like oh, if it's a top 4 we get it. It's top 10. They're two places away. That's it. 2 places. One of those could be the Pelicans jumping up, and then we just need one more team.
Garrick, I love the way you just said that. I was already having a really good day. That was a cherry on top. Now we just gotta get a W tonight. But Garrick, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm right with Shamit and Chris, bro. They were in the spaces talking about how Stanley Johnson was gonna save their season, bro. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. And I listened to them sell themselves on Stanley Johnson. And like Chris, I was sipping a nice cold glass of Douce. Like, man, look at the times, bro. But as far as my winners go, I'm gonna go a little weird on this one. I think that Brooklyn Philadelphia trade, as ugly, as weird as it's been all throughout, I think that both teams kind of got what they wanted, and they kind of got better. I like Harden with Joel and the dearth of defenders with Matisse Thybulle, and Tobias Harris out there, and him kind of running the show with Joel Embiid. I think he'll find like a new sense of purpose there with Joel, talking about Harden. And as far as Brooklyn goes, I mean, they're all in for whatever this time is with Durant, Kyrie, and what they have now. I think that they're all in, so they could care less about draft picks, the future, the money, everything. I think that they're all in. And a team with Ben Simmons, with all of his faults, he can pass the ball. He may not be able to shoot. He can pass the ball. And you surround him with Kevin Durant and Seth Curry, Kyrie Irving, and then also have Andre Drummond as a backup big, because they're gonna need size. They're gonna need somebody big to do something for them. They can't rely on Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge. So I think both teams, as ugly as that whole situation has gotten and everything, I think both teams made it out all right as far as they go. But of course, I'm just gonna stick with the Lakers being losers. I mean, they have to watch that team for the rest of this season. And it is going to be it. I don't need a reason to root against the Lakers. Like, I don't need any additional reason. But as far as the pick goes, and like Shamit has talked about, we right there as far as procuring that pick. Like, that's just added incentive to hop in them spaces and drink them Lakers tears with Chris. So cheers, my brother. Cheers on that.
That was very well said, Garrick. Raph, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to be a homer here, but I obviously think the Pelicans are in the winner circle, similar to Jake. I mean, not to the same magnitude, but look at what Chris Paul going to Phoenix did for them. Obviously, it bolstered their team in a way where everyone got better. The bigs got better. The young players got better. The whole team got better. And I think CJ will have that type of impact both on and off the court. I'm going to be petty as well. I'm very petty, just like my brother. I'm so glad the Mavericks made that dumbass trade, because I stay in Dallas, and I got to hear about them dudes talking about Luka versus Zion. And now I'm about to look at their roster and be like, this is what you want to surround Luka with? He just signed the max. He about to add out, because they don't have any operations to get better either. They don't have any draft picks. They just got terrible fits. Like, I'm in several group chats, and everybody's like, we just got who? He shoots what? I can't wait till he waves off Luka and everybody's pissed off in the lock. Like, I cannot wait to see that team.
Wait, bro, the one thing I can't wait for Luka's first conversation with Spencer Dinwiddie about NFT and crypto. Can't wait for it.
Yeah, and so, to me, I look at those teams. Obviously, Mavericks in our company, you're always going to have the comparisons with them being in our same division and Luka and Zion being of similar age. And Zion's not playing, and this team is good outside of him. If you take Luka off the Mavericks, they're the last place team in the league. And so I just can't wait to see the two teams develop and see what arc they take. And so I think this deadline, they're the worst losers of everybody in the league, other than the Lakers, because they've been a shit show all season long.
All right, Chris, you're going to close us out, but I'm gonna put some rules on it. You can't say Lakers and you can't say Pelicans. Okay, so give me a winner or loser, because we all know the Lakers are losers, but give me your winner and loser without saying those two. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, I'm with most of you guys on the, well, actually Garrick in regards to Brooklyn. I more so than Philly. I mean, I think Brooklyn won because, when Kevin Durant is healthy, I mean, he's arguably the best player in basketball. I don't know what's going to happen with Kyrie, if he's ever going to play home games again, or how that situation is going to look. But at the end of the day, it gave them, they have options. They were able to add a bona fide, shooter and a guy who continues to get better. And Seth Curry, I don't know where those draft picks are going to go, but I mean, it just gives them more options than they had, yesterday, right? Whether that involves Kyrie or not, you get Andre Drummond, and with some of these talents, sometimes you just trust them to be able to find a way to make it work. So, yeah, I mean, I really like what they did there, and if they are able to put everybody on the floor and those guys are healthy, I mean, I like it for Ben Simmons. I like whether he wants to shoot the basketball or not. I mean, I like having those amount of scorers and shooters around him to be able to spread the floor. And I think, I mean, it's going to be a paradise for him. So we'll see what happens with there. And losers, yeah, I'm with all of y'all. Dallas, man. You don't have Tim Hardaway Jr. You traded for Spencer Dinwiddie, but you could argue that Jalen Brunson's playing better than him right now. So I don't see how that makes him better, really, at all. I mean, at least when Kristaps was out there, to Shamit's point, you had somebody that could just give you something different versus it being a backcourt presence. They have nobody that they can dump the ball down to just give a different look. I don't understand it. I don't get I don't get the route. It just feels like they're hoping Luka can go 25-year-old LeBron James mode and spread out the floor, and you get some type of production from these backcourt guys. I think that it makes them worse, and I could see them dropping down the standings. In all honesty, that might not be. We could be looking at a spot where we'd be like, "Damn, Pelicans 3 games away from Dallas." I really could see that. I think that move was that bad for them.
Yeah. Well, look, guys, I have so much respect for y'all, especially, Jake and Shamit. Y'all been doing this for years, and y'all are some of the best in the business. And I can't thank y'all enough for all the hard work y'all do and joining this. And then Garrick and Raph, I've known Raph for a long time, and y'all do a great job. And Chris, with the spaces, man, I can't tell you what you've done for this community just to put us all together, night in, night out, whether we win or lose. I know that we have something to look forward to at the end of the night. So I can't thank y'all enough. Again, Jake, Madison, Shamit, do it. Garrick and Raph, Rattler, and then Chris Connor. Hopefully Pels play tonight against the Heat at 6:30. Then I think Saturday against the Spurs at 6 p.m. Both at home, big stretch coming up. So once again, guys, thank y'all so much. Hopefully we get to do this again, and let's go Pels, I guess. Here we go. So appreciate you, fellas.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all.
All right.
Catch y'all later on.
Yes, sir.
See y'all at the game.